Good morning, communication theory students. You've completed your midterm and we're well over halfway through the course. Congratulations. All right, this week you'll be working on chapters 7, 8, and 9. I'll give a quick overview of those chapters and the 9 theories that you will learn this week. A word to the wise. I've put this lecture and all of the PowerPoint notes on Blackboard for you to read, and I suggest that you read them or look at them before you read chapters 7, 8, and 9. That will prepare you and preview you to understand the chapters and the theories better. Okay, then chapter 7, and I will be referring over to the side here where my notes are briefly. And I won't go into great detail because you have PowerPoint slides and the chapter on this. But the 3 theories that are presented in chapter 7, which is called Discourse and Change. It's talking about communication through dialogue and then bringing about change, whether that's social change, relational change, political change, where communication is involved. The 3 theories are Structuration Theory, Diffusion of Innovations Theory, and Communication Accommodation Theory. Now, the first theory was formed by a British theorist, Anthony Giddens, and it deals with systems, the role of the individual within larger systems, and how we have agency within those systems through our communication, whether we're a part of an organization, a workplace, a society, a democracy, how we as agents and communicators affect those systems. Very important and very interesting that we do have agency and power as communicators. The second theory is Diffusion of Innovations Theory. And that was theorized or created by Gabriel Tardy, a French lawyer and judge. And this is extremely interesting, particularly for those of you who study media and technology, is how new inventions are taken on or adapted or embraced by individuals in a society and a culture. So for the example of the internet, right? There were people who were the very early embracers of that innovation. Then there were people coming along in the middle time, and then there's even people nowadays that are slow to embrace the internet and to learn it and to embrace this new innovation or invention. Really an important theory. The third theory in chapter 7 is Communication Accommodation Theory. Howard Giles, a communication scholar this time, theorized. And this is how individuals communicate in interpersonal relationships to create convergence and divergence. That simply means how we accommodate our nonverbal communication, verbal communication, to either mirror or converge or help people get closer to us, right? Convergence. Or if we want to keep a distance from people, right? We want to not have them close to us and we don't want to communicate with them. How we use our communication, both verbal and nonverbal, to bring divergence in those relationships. 3 theories, chapter 7. Structurization, diffusion of innovations, and a communication accommodation theory. 3 very different types of theories in different types of communication. Then let's look at chapter 8, right? Chapter 8. And chapter 8, if you are interested, and you maybe even have studied some of these in interpersonal communication, if you are interested in that. Right? And these 3 theories, uncertainty reduction theory, right? This uncertainty reduction theory deals with when you are new to a relationship, if you meet somebody for the first time, if you communicate with a stranger. The theorist is Charles Berger, And it focuses on how we gain knowledge, how we assess a situation, and then we work to relieve the uncertainty or the uncomfortability we all have when we first come into relationships that we don't understand or into situations we don't understand. An example might be going to a party and you don't know anybody. So you assess the situation because you have a great deal of uncertainty, and as a human being, you want to reduce that uncertainty. So you assess the situation, you go about asking questions, you observe, you use different strategies to relieve that uncertainty in new relationships. Please read that one carefully in chapter 8. Really interesting. I think that you will understand that quite well. The second one in that chapter, chapter 8, is social penetration theory. And this talks about the development of interpersonal relationships. All of us have had relationships, and according to this theory, they go through different cycles of intimacy. And they use an onion. You may have studied this in interpersonal communications. And the peeling of the onion, the levels of getting to know someone and getting closer to someone, this theory explores. It talks about a superficial, right, layer, then an intimate layer, a personal layer, and the core. And usually the core is really only known to yourself. You let very few people into the core, but it talks about the development of interpersonal relationships through different cycles of getting closer to them, like peeling off the skin of an onion. Social penetration theory. All right, then. The final theory in chapter 8 is social exchange theories. And this is a collection of theories, not just one theory. And it talks about sort of the weighing that we do, the exchange of looking at relationships, interpersonal relationships, the positives and the benefits of the relationships to us, and the negative or the costs, like on a scale. So when we go into an interpersonal relationship, whether that's romantic or whether that's a friendship, colleagues, we look at what is positive and beneficial about this relationship as opposed to what is negative is going to cost me in this relationship. And we make an exchange and we decide whether or not to develop that relationship. So it's called social exchange theory, like a balance. It came out of a sociologist, George Homans. So you have three theories in this three very important theories about interpersonal relationships in chapter 8, right? Uncertainty reduction theory, you have social penetration theory, and social exchange theory. If you're interested in interpersonal, chapter 8 is a good one for you. All right, then the final chapter for this week is chapter 9. And this is also about interpersonal relationships and about sustaining them, right? Sustaining them over time. The first one is dialectical theory, and it talks about relational dialectics. The second one is communication privacy management theory, and the third one is systems theory, interactions systems theory. Really all fascinating. Relational dialectics talks about the tensions in relationships, right? The give and the take, the benefits, the cost, contradictions, stability in a relationship versus change in the relationship, autonomy in a relationship versus how close you are to someone, connectedness, openness versus closeness in relationships. Those are the dialectics, those paradoxes within every relationship, the yin and the yang of it. The second theory is communication privacy management theory. and talks about boundaries and privacy within relationships and how we set those boundaries, because most everybody needs some privacy to themselves. So how do we set those privacy boundaries within a relationship is this theory. And how much disclosure, what are the privacy rules, ownership versus control. And the communication scholar is Sandra Petronio, who developed this particular theory, dealing with privacy and boundaries in relationships. The final theory is interactional systems theory. And this is a series of many, many theories that looks at how we communicate within systems and how the systems impact our communication. Families are systems, organizations are systems, classrooms are systems, any group, churches are systems, and these systems then impact the way in which we communicate within the system, giving feedback, the interaction between members, the values and norms, the hierarchy of the systems, right? Who's in power, how that works, homeostasis, how a system maintains itself over time, and how a system, family, changes, organizations change, the evolution of systems. So if you are interested in business communication, organizational communication, anything like that, family communication, the systems theories is very, very helpful in helping us to understand our behaviors within larger contexts or systems. Okay, so chapter 9, really important again, the systems theory, the and dialectical theory, with the tensions within, contradictions within relationships, and then the communication privacy management theory. 9 theories. Again, take the meat, throw away the bones. This is an introduction to communication theory. We're handling lots of theories, but you should be familiar with and understand the essence of each of these 9 theories. Take the quizzes, and we'll be moving on shortly to your research. Okay, keep the reading going, keep the studying going, and learn these 9 theories. Have a wonderful day.